Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of WTF Live, Window Treatment Friday Live. And it is episode number 44. I'm
Wow,
so
crazy.
excited.
We
I'm
say it
here
every
with,
week, right, Kim?
I know, we're like,
So
woohoo, episode
excited.
number 43, episode number 44.
Still, we're excited,
No,
people. All
yeah,
right, deal with it.
we are happy to be here with everybody.
Exactly.
So in this episode this week, we have a very special topic. If you watched last week's episode, we kind of did a little bit of a just an
Overview.
overview on hard treatments, aka blinds and shades. If you don't know what hard treatments are and you didn't watch last week's episode, and one of the topics that we covered or just showed was woven wood. So this week we decided we're going to kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive into the topic of woven woods.
Yeah, and just like we did in some previous episodes where we took apart, kind of unpacked and brought back
Mm-hmm.
together some shutters we did roller shades. So this is a
Yes.
similar type episode where we take one style of a treatment, window treatment, and we give you more detail about it. And like
Yes.
Kim said, today is woven woods. And the first slide that we have here is to kind of give you an idea of what the heck is woven wood anyway. Like,
Yes.
woven, like what, like if you have no idea what we're talking about. So this first slide is kind of where we're sort of giving you like a very basic idea. And what essentially what it is, it's a Roman shade usually made of a natural material.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually woven, it's weaved together or woven together, and it's usually made either out of bamboo or some kind of grass cloth. So the
Yes.
whole look is very natural, very organic, if you will. It
Mm-hmm.
comes in various colors and various textures. And some cloths are woven to a specific size of the shade, and some
Mm-hmm.
cloths are woven to a really much larger size. And then the fabricators cut from that overall cloth,
Well,
much
roll.
like any
Mm-hmm.
fabric would be cut for
Right.
any kind of drapery or valance.
Exactly.
But here's the slide really shows you that it can be larger slats, smaller slat. Some
Mm-hmm.
even don't have slats per se because
Right.
they're very fine strands of grass
Mm-hmm.
going across and then going up and down. Some have little nubs, some don't. Some have more imperfections, some have less imperfections. The idea is, think of it as this is a natural fiber made out of a bamboo material or like a grass cloth material that is woven into a sheet of fabric that can come in various sizes and various colors.
Yes. Dye lot is also very key. So a lot of times when you have samples, just know that those colors may not necessarily look like, the shade that you get. So that's kind of the one thing that you kind of take a little bit of a risk on. And not a lot of companies will also give you, like with fabrics where you can get a cutting for approval.
Mhm.
Sometimes with woven woods, you don't have the opportunity to get that cutting.
Yep.
So
Right. So
go
know
ahead.
that there can be a variation, essentially, is
Yes,
what you're
yes,
saying.
yeah. And
Yeah.
what we sometimes do, we'll ask for samples, and
Mm,
this way you can kind of see like, okay, these are the different shades that this shade might come in.
yeah.
So this is a project that we at WindowWorks did for Styled by Han, and this client has a sofa in front of the windows, and you can see to the left a TV. So we opted to do woven woods because she had woven woods on the French doors and the other side of the room, but she never really felt that she wanted anything on the windows. But then with being home more and it being very cold in that room, we decided to put the woven woods there. Now, because there are pieces of furniture in front of the windows, we went with motorization. So
Nice.
these are motorized. They are rechargeable battery motorization. So you can kind of see like a white cord hanging from the valance in the middle shade there. And for this one, yeah, they're showing you that the shade is charging. And so what I wanted to show is that there are different ways in which you can lift the shades and operate them. So this one happens to be motorized. With this one, because of the conditions of the cold, we decided to do it different companies again. Different vendors have different ways that they call things. We went with a classic style where the fabric comes off the back and you have the little valance in the front. We're going to explain all the different styles that woven woods come in a couple of slides up ahead. But for this one, the reason why we chose to do that is with the classic style, the fabric comes off the back of the board. So the fabric sits closer to the window. And if with the colds being one of the things, one of the reasons why the client wanted the shades to begin with, I felt that it was more important to have them sit closer to the glass to kind of help trap, the cold air and the hot air in the summer months.
And Kim,
We
is
did
there a
line these.
lining? Okay,
Yes,
good.
yes,
You're like,
we did.
you've
We
been
did.
picking the
Yeah.
questions out of my
Yeah.
mind.
So we did add a liner to these because they do back up to neighbors, and it's also a level of privacy, because that's the one thing with woven woods too. There is no magic wand, kind of like solar shades, where if you can see out during the day, people are going to be able to see in at night with the lights on. So there's no Harry Potter trick that that Vita and I can do. That's just the rule of thumb. I know oftentimes we get calls like, I want the shades that we can see out, but then no one can see in. I'm like, it doesn't
Okay. Okay.
exist. So yeah. So for this, because this room is used a lot of times at night with the lights on, they wanted to line them in order to offer up privacy. So you can line them in a light filtering liner or a privacy liner or a room darkening. So if this was a bedroom and you wanted to use them in the bedroom, you have the ability to do that as well.
And this is just a privacy liner, so it's a light filtering.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So as you can see there in the window closer to us on the right, you could actually see the channel molding through of the window with the light coming through. So it does let a lot of light in. So it's not something that, and it also depends on the color of the fabric that you pick and the kind of lining that you pick. Those are all things that kind of factor into the lighting opacity.
Nice. Okay, and here I wanted to explain to you guys the different types of woven wood shades that you can have. And actually this applies not just to woven woods, but even to any Roman shade too. And
Exactly.
woven wood is a material, but the type of shade that it is, it's actually a Roman shade. So a Roman shade is just sort of like at its most basic, is mounted on a board at the top, and the fabric comes off the board, either the front or the back, and covers the window. That's essentially what a Roman shade is. And when it comes up, it kind of stacks up onto itself to then go up on the window and stacks at the top of the window. So, but there's different styles that it can go down in and can come up in. So what Kim alluded to a couple of minutes ago, and the slide that you just saw, is this is a classic style. What this means is you can see that on your very left. That is when there is a valance. So there's a board at the top. It's not shown in the picture, but imagine just like a 1x2, I guess, a board at the top, and the shade comes off of the back of the board, and then the valance comes off of the front of the board. So this is what you are seeing right over here on the left, or in other words, this is also what Kim had shown. Let me see if I can go back. So right here, you can see how the shade is closer to the window, and then there is a valance up in the front of the shade. That's a classic style. Then next you have a hobbled style, and we will show the actual shade in a couple of slides, but here I wanted to show the rendering. A hobbled style is, instead of the shade being flat as you're seeing on the left and the right, the left is what we explained as the classic style. The hobbled style has folds. So it doesn't just come down flat, it has, if you will, like these, well, the folds is the only way that I can explain it, exactly as it's shown on the rendering. Now, why would you want to do something like that? Perhaps you think the fabric would lay better when it has folds like that versus it being flat. Or perhaps you want to have more interest at the window. Perhaps you don't want it to be super sleek and contemporary looking or super simple looking. You want essentially you want to have more interest at the window, and those folds provide that additional interest, if you will. So now these hobbled shades, they can have a valance or they may not have a valance. That's also up to you or up to the different manufacturer. So the hobbled really refers to the way the shade comes down, or rather sits on the window. It still stacks onto itself just like any shade would, but when it's completely in its downward position, it has those folds. So that's the Hobbled style. And then the third style is the Waterfall style. And it's very similar to the classic style. However, you can see up at the top that there is no valance. The reason that there is, hi, Gina, I was wondering where you were.
Yeah.
Hi, our biggest fan. I'm so excited. um, so the Waterfall style comes, unlike the classic style, it comes off the board in front of the board. So if this were the board right here, it comes in front of the board versus the back of the board. And because it comes off in the front of the board, it really does not really need to have a valance. Essentially what the valance does in the classic style, it hides the mechanisms that are attached to the undercarriage of that board so that the shade can actually operate. So there you have it. Those are your three major styles.
Yes. Okay. This is an installation that we did for Ellie Moreau's for EMD. And this is an example of a waterfall style woven wood. Now we decided to do a darker woven wood. It's black. And to my installer's surprise, I lined it in white. And so
that's really cool. I remember this one from a previous episode.
So my reasoning of wanting to line it in white was so that you could really appreciate the texture and the color of the black woven wood. Because if you were to have lined it in a black or in a darker color, then it wouldn't have really you wouldn't have really seen it, and it wouldn't have shined through when the light was going through. So that was a little bit of a risk, but I'm glad that we took that risk because again, you could really appreciate the texture for what it is. Now, unlike the classic style where the fabric comes off the back, since the fabric comes off the front, the cords run behind the shade. So that's also something that I wanted to talk about, is that like a Roman shade, when you have to operate, especially if it's an inside mount application, you kind of have to move the shade out of the way a little bit to get to the control. You never want to bring the control to the front and then operate it that way, whether it's a clutch control, standard cord lock, because eventually over time, the same section that you're bringing the control over to, it's going to start to fray and dent the fabric. So that's one thing to consider when you're talking about a waterfall style, is that the controls do sit behind the shade. So it's just one little tip that I always like to give out when we're talking about.
Yeah, because lift system is really important. I mean, the aesthetic of the shade is really interesting in the way you've done it, or whatever shade the designer decides to do. But it's the functionality that also needs to come into play as well.
Right. So you could also, some brands offer cordless, not all yet. So with cordless, you don't really have to worry about moving the shade, but those are just some things that we always kind of like to have a conversation. And if the client doesn't want to have to go through the trouble of moving the shade, then you can go to the classic style where the cords will sit in front of the shade. So they'll always be seen whether the shade is up or down or whatnot. So that's the one thing compared to the waterfall, but they're a little bit easier to access.
Nice. And I love what you've done here with the lining, Kim. I think I said it before, and I'll say it again here too. It is so unique, you guys. I have been doing this for over 15 years, and I've never done it like this. I've never seen it done like this. I think this is super unique and just really shows what like an awesome designer Kim can be and is. I think it's a real risk to do something like this. And also the designer that Kim you worked with, the fact that she took this risk and really listened to what you had to say and the way you guys put your brains together. I mean, just really, really major kudos. Like I'm really looking forward to a project that I can have where I can do something like that.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that if you're going for the woven wood and it's all about the texture and you line it with something dark, you're not like, what's the point? You're not going to see it. So I often do it a lot of times, even when we're doing dark gray wovens or dark brown, just something I have that whole conversation. How much of this texture do you want to see? Okay, then let's entertain a lighter liner.
Yeah. No, that's really pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is that waterfall look that I not the waterfall, the hobbled look that I referred to a little while back. Let me go back just real quick to see this hobbled look. That's the one in the center. That's the one that has those folds. And so this is the rendering, and this is what it actually looks like in real life. Now, this picture I took off of Lafayette Window Fashions, which is a really major brand in this window treatment industry. If you guys are not familiar with it, make sure to check them out. And one of the products that they have is Montruk, which is their
Woven
name
wood.
for woven woods. Yes, sometimes different companies have just like different titles for them, but
Yeah.
essentially it's their, the generic is woven wood, we'll call it that way. So that's how you can, where you can see how this hobbled look and all these folds, and they really look in real life. Another thing that I wanted to point out here for you guys is the contrasting banding. You can see that they used black, so it really contrasted out against the white shade, which is also a risk here and something really unique and different that this designer did. So white also is very popular right now, or of course there's a shade of gray, and there's lots of woven woods that are coming now in various variations and textures of whites and grays and all the colors that are really popular right now.
Yeah. So it just shows you that you can, there are different ways to add elements, design elements to woven woods. So unlike, so other blinds, you can't necessarily do that to like a honeycomb. But what's nice about this, it almost competes with a Roman shade.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely adds more texture. I mean, depending on the fabric, but this definitely adds a lot of texture.
Absolutely. Okay, this is a project that Window Works did for House of Funk. And what I love about what Sandra and her team often do is they love the look of the woven wood, the texture that they bring. And we'll also often do them in larger bathrooms where moisture and, the heat and the condensation aren't going to necessarily affect the shades. We'll do them in a space like this and top down, bottom up. So it's another feature that you can offer with the woven woods, which is really great. So with top down, bottom up, it means that the shade can function from the top down and also the traditional way from the bottom up. Now, this particular one, most top down, bottom ups are with, you have to have cords. I know this one has the Horizon, it could only do standard cord lock. For top down, bottom up, Hunter Douglas, I believe, is either the standard cord lock or the Easy Rise. They can't do cordless just yet, but who knows what happens in the future. I love using this feature of the top down, bottom up in bathrooms. I like to call it like the set it and forget it kind of mode, where you lower the shade to a certain level, you set it at the height that you're private at the level that you need the privacy, and then you can still get the view over the top. And then you kind of forget it. Oftentimes I find clients don't really move the top down, bottom up in bathrooms because it's always where you need the shade to be. So you're not worried about like, oh, let me bring it up higher today, let me bring it down lower. It's like, no one can see me while I'm in the shower or soaking in my lovely tub, and I can still be there looking up out at the trees and enjoying the view that I have. So it's something else to consider.
Yeah, it's beautifully done. I could tell this was done for a designer just by the way this was
styled.
Merchandise. Styled, exactly. And I'm not at all surprised that it's for Sandra. It's quite beautiful.
Yeah, she did a great job.
So this is an interesting picture that I wanted to show you guys. This is a project that we did for our local designer here. Her name is Anita Householder, and the name of her company is House Edits. And this was a project down the shore, and the shade on your left is the original shade that we installed. It was from a company that I will talk about in just a second, but I want to kind of get to my point to first. The style of the shade is the classic style, meaning that it comes off the front of the board, and this particular one was cordless, I believe. It's beautiful fabric, it's light, it's airy, it's perfect for the shore, except for one little element that wasn't quite perfect. Can you tell, Kim, what it is?
I can, yeah.
You can, yes. Exactly. So what wasn't perfect on the left window is what we've made a lot better on the right window, and ultimately then we did the rest of the windows like that. And the difference there is the valance. So what happened, the customer initially did not want to have that valance. So she didn't want to go with the classic style. She wanted to go with the waterfall style, which is the shade, like we said to you before, that comes off of the front of the board. And she thought it was sleeker and cleaner. She didn't want to deal with valances, you know, all the good reasons. However, what happens, especially down the shore with the sun shining and it being super bright and the reflection off the bay or the ocean, is that the mechanisms behind the shade really become see-through. Like you totally see all the little, you know, things that are attached to the to under the board. So the way we rectify that is we ordered additional valances, and we ultimately put it to the to the board, to the front of the board. So essentially it became where the shade was going off of the front of the board, and then there was an additional valance that we put to the front of the board as well. So you might ask, what style is it, Vita? It doesn't really comport to any of the three styles that you mentioned before. And the answer is no, it doesn't. And you know why? Because we're in the custom window treatment business. Sometimes we make up our own style because that's what the situation calls for. So the lesson here is this. If you have a client that insists on a certain style, and you know in your hearts of hearts that there are certain ramifications to that decision, use pictures and use your experience to show them and tell them what those ramifications and consequences are, because sometimes it's difficult for them to visualize, and they really have to see a visual, a picture, to be like, oh, really? Right, that silly mechanism does show through the shade, and it is distracting, and I don't want that. So yes, let's go with the valance after all. So that was our experience actually very recently. I believe we installed the initial job sometime in the fall, and we just added the valances, I believe January or February. So this was a recent project.
Now, I know like when we've done things and I've talked about like mechanisms and things like that, especially with Romans too that face the front of the house, we sometimes will put a back valance that comes off the back of the board. So and it's usually made out of liner, so it's not expensive. And some companies do offer that. But again, you will get that shadowing effect in the back. So these are all things that you have to, all the little nudgy details and conversations that you want to have with the clients beforehand, so that they know what to expect when the product gets installed.
Yeah, all the little nudgy details. If you don't mind, Kim, I just want to highlight a company that has really been a great resource for us lately, and a really great partner in light of what happened. That company is Pro Design. So we all know that woven woods are really popular right now for all the right reasons. And we also know that there's been a really shortage and a lot of back orders in the woven wood world. And so we've really tried to look for additional and alternative resources, and this company has proven to be a really good partner for us. So I want to highlight them. So here's one of their books. This particular collection is called Walden, and like I said, the name of the company is Pro Resource. So you can definitely check them out online. The sales, our sales rep or account rep, her name is Emma, and she's on Instagram at Emma_Pro Resource. And she's been incredibly helpful and just a really, really sharp person. So these are some of the swatches that they have in this collection. She's really, so I'm just going to page through like that. Some really pretty things. I mean, there's some more traditional, more kind of like Tuscany type things that we used to do a few years ago. But here's some grays and some off-whites and some beiges and, you know, more grays, I should say, in here as well. Here's some more whites and off-whites. I mean, you can never have enough off-whites in your woven wood collection. So very, very pretty swatches. They're not chunky, how a lot of the woven woods often are. What's really in style right now are very fine type of, more grass clothy type of swatches and fabrics, rather than more like chunky, clunky bamboo type of swatches. And this company has, I mean, it has both, but it really has a really nice selection of more of the grass clothy type of
more tailored, more streamlined kind of material,
more elegant, sophisticated materials,
They
right?
feel more like
So
a fabric. They have more of a look of a fabric than they do of a grass cloth.
yeah, yeah. Um, and also I have this hand sample from the same company, Pro Design. They have a really great cordless shade that they
Mm.
do. So here I am. I'm just literally pushing it up like this,
Oh, nice.
and off up it goes. So here, this particular one is the classic style because it has the valance, and
Mm-hmm.
here are all the mechanisms underneath the board.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the valance is lined, and so this is a really nifty little sample that we show our customers. And this particular one does have banding on the side or edging on the side. They have various colors for the edging, something that coordinates and complements whatever you're doing. And I'm also really impressed with how easily this operation, this lift system works, because with some of these, you have to pull down to pull
Yes,
up.
and
Here, you
engage.
really don't, to engage, exactly. Here I am, I'm really just pushing it up. So very
Nice.
similar to some higher end cordless lift system up there.
Yeah.
So
That's
this
very
is what it
similar
looks
to
like
like
in
the
the
Hunter Douglas lift system. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, so this is their hand sample. Walden collection is what I showed you a second ago. They have other collections as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a network dealer, there's an exclusive collection too. Emma at Pro Design is our wonderful account manager, and she's been super supportive, especially to us in light of the fire and all the samples that we have lost. We lost all of their books and swatches, and they were on the ball like that. I mean, instantly she was just so incredibly helpful and supportive in stepping up and realizing that we lose them? Aha, you lost them. Okay, I'm going to send them right over to you, right out. And additionally, she she sent us some Starbucks cards, which was just
Oh,
super,
that's
super
so nice.
thoughtful. And I have my little feline helper on Instagram quite a bit. His name's Kiefer. He's my wonderful cat, and I guess she's a cat lover too. So she sent him little treats, and that just like totally put me over the top. You know? If somebody loves your pets more than you do, then they're your friends.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
anyway, there are several woven wood companies out there, and many of them do experience the backorder situations and some
Mhm.
customer service situations, but it has not been the case, for at least for us, with Pro Design, and they're a really wonderful alternative resource. I really highly recommend you guys check them out.
Very nice.
Okay.
Okay. That's
And
the
Kim, you go.
episode, everybody. Oh, you don't want to go with your slide,
You
Vita?
go. I talked enough.
Okay.
We'll give me a little break.
Okay. All right. For those of you who are new to window treatments, Luann wrote an ebook. Architectural Digest isn't coming. 10 things you need to know about custom window treatments. You can head on over to the WindowWorks website and request your downloaded copy.
And I'll give you real quick. Our goodie from Vitalia Inc. is a free lookbook that we actually just recently updated, so it's a lot more interactive, and it has some excerpts from the presentations that I've done in the past. So not only is it really quite a bit of eye candy and inspiration, but there's really a lot of education there that was kind of extrapolated from the presentations that I've done. So definitely check it out.
Nice. And to keep up with Miss Luann and all things the podcast and everything else that she has going on, please make sure to follow her on Instagram at Luann Nigara to listen to the audio version of WTF Live, which is where this kind of whole idea stemmed from. Luann and Vita go on about once a month, right? And you do an episode
Once
on
a
window.
month or so. Yep,
Yes.
exactly.
Last week's episode was very inspirational. I listened to Vita's episode on my way home from work.
Did you?
So yes, I did. And yeah, so it was a really great one.
Thank you.
Yeah, and be sure to follow Luann on to get these episodes. You can go to luannigara.com, hit the podcast tab, and you can type in WTF, and you'll get all the episodes.
And Gina, you will be so proud of me. I finally, it only took me 3 weeks to really like get your clue, but I'm maybe a little slow, but eventually I catch on. So I did put in a slide here about my class. So thank you, Gina, for being my producer and always whispering in my ear, if you will, quote unquote, through your comments. And so here I am giving you guys, I guess, a final reminder, because my class does start next Thursday. So just a little short of a week from today. On April 8th, we meet at 3 p.m. Eastern, and the class is all about scaling your window treatment business to your first $1 million year. It is a perfect class for whether you're a workroom, a one-person workroom, or a 3 to 5 person workroom. You may be a window treatment specialist solopreneur working out of your house, or you may be a window treatment specialist working for a retailer. So what I'm teaching in this class is how to organize and systematize your business so that you can run an efficient and productive operation where it's a lean and mean machine, if you will, how to rely on processes and systems, how to engage technology and rely on technology to become more web-based, to become less paper dependent, how to, and just lots of other things. So please go on luannuniversity.com to get more information and to sign up. The registration ends on April 7th, so that's next Wednesday, so you still have a few days to think about it. And if you have any questions, I am happy to answer those. So please DM me, PM me, email me directly, and I'm happy to even jump on the phone with you to answer whatever questions you may have.
Very good. All right, to keep up with all things Window Works, please be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Window Works. If you are a designer or a consumer in the New Jersey and New York area, we would be happy to help you on your next window treatment and awning project. Especially if you want awnings, now's the time to do it before the summer comes. And we take all the guesswork out for you, all the headaches, all the little nudgy details that we have to worry about. We'll take that off your plate and handle it for you.
And the same thing goes for Vitalia Inc., except that if you're in the Philadelphia area, then we do all the things that Kim just mentioned. All the nudgy details, measurements, fabrication, installation, project management, everything that goes into project management, which is a million nudgy details, essentially, is how I can sum it up in one sentence. If you're an interior designer in the Philadelphia area looking for support with your window treatments, please give us a call. We are that organized and that systematized and really that good with our communication. We will make you look like heroes to your clients. That's ultimately what we love to do.
Yes. And if you're also a consumer in the Philadelphia area, you can call Vita and she can help you place you with a designer that would be the perfect fit for your choice too.
Thank you, Kim. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, happy Easter, Gina. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a wonderful holiday weekend, and we will see you next Friday because, Kim, if it's Friday,
it's WTF Live, Window Treatment Friday Live. So
that's right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
We'll see you at 12 next Friday. There you go. Bye.